Hello, I'm Stephanie, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to brew kombucha tea. Kombucha is fermented tea, and it takes minimum 7 days to ferment a batch of tea and convert it into kombucha. Well, let's fast forward. It's day 7, and now we're going to flavor our kombucha and bottle it for second fermentation. So, the first thing I'll do is start by washing my hands and then sterilizing them with white vinegar. I didn't grab the vinegar, so let me grab it. So I'll wash my hands just to make sure that I'm not going to contaminate my SCOBY. SCOBY is an acronym. It stands for Symbiotic Culture of Bacteria and Yeast. So now that I have washed my hands, I'm going to just pour a palmful of white vinegar in my hands and just give them a quick wipe. Now my hands have been sterilized and I can handle my SCOBY without fear of contamination. This is my fermenting jar. It's 2.5 gallons. I cover it with a white cloth or any type of cloth, just to keep out the dust and fruit flies. I'm going to just grab my SCOBY. Some people call it a mushroom. I just call it a SCOBY. And it's really a cellulose, which is a byproduct of the fermentation of the bacteria and yeast consuming the sugar from this tea, and it converts it into probiotic, and the byproduct is this cellulose. Now that I have my SCOBY out of the way, next thing I need is a fine mesh strainer and a container. This can be a pot, a bowl, it really doesn't matter. Just a container large enough to strain my finished kombucha into. So, I'll pour my kombucha tea into the strainer. This is going to strain out any fragments of yeast or strands that may be broken away from the SCOBY. My kombucha is very fizzy, as my brew has gone past 7 days, and it's not my preference, but oh well, it's what I have. I'm going to just give my strainer a quick rinse and set it out the way. And now, since I have my fermenting jar empty, as you can see, there's fragments of yeast in the bottom. I'm going to give my jar a rinse with warm water and just get rid of any sediments or yeast fragments that was collecting in the bottom of the jar. Rinse my jar out. Soap never touches my jar because contents of my jar are sterile. Kombucha is sterile and clean, and I don't need to use soap because I am about to brew more kombucha tea and put in, and my jar sterilized. While I have my SCOBY out, I'm going to also give it a rinse in cool water. And as you can see, pieces of old SCOBY fell away. I don't want that in my next brewing batch, so I'm going to just wash my SCOBY. Each week, your SCOBY will produce what's called a baby. And I like that I can show you the mother and the baby. They will attach themselves together. But this lighter, thinner, more translucent SCOBY, that's the baby that was produced. And the darker piece, that was the mother. And this is an old mother. You'll have that happen too. And it'll get old and raggedy over time. I could discard it, but I don't. I'll let it meld together and get a little thick. Now that my SCOBY is clean, I'm going to return it to my pan. The first thing I'm going to do before I flavor anything is reserve 2 cups of finished kombucha for my next batch of kombucha. 1 cup per gallon. This is a 2-cup measuring cup. So I'm going to just dip 2 cups of my finished raw kombucha and pour it in my vessel. Ready for the next batch. And I'm going to return my SCOBY to my brewing vessel and sit these things on the side. Get everything a quick rinse going because it's easier that way. Okay. Now, to flavoring my kombucha. I guess what I'll do is show you, before I start flavoring, the next thing I do is brew my tea for the next batch of kombucha. I have 16 tea bags, 8 black, 8 green. And I have a Breville tea maker. This appliance, however, is not necessary to brew tea. However you get your tea brewed is solely up to you. But because I have a Breville tea maker, I'm using my tea maker. I'm going to just cut the tags off and put the lid on. Now, I brew 2 gallons at a time, and so I have 2 gallons of filtered water. I'm going to use some of my filtered water to brew my tea. The amount really doesn't matter because you're making a concentrate. So I just happen to take it to the maximum capacity for my tea maker, and I'll brew my tea. While my tea is brewing, the next thing I'm going to do is prep my ginger. A lot of people peel the ginger with a vegetable peeler. Some peel it with a knife. But an Oriental chef showed me the easiest way to peel ginger is with a spoon. Ginger has what I call fingers. So when I measure my ginger, I break it apart. This would be thumb-sized piece, because it's about the size of my thumb. This would be another thumb-sized piece. This would be a little finger. And if I broke this in half, that would be about 2 thumbs. So it's just a rough guide when deciphering how much ginger you to use. So simply take the spoon, scrape the ginger. You're not losing anything. It goes right in between the crevices, the bumps, the lumps. It's just the easiest way to peel ginger without losing any of your ginger. All I'm losing here is the skin. Never ever gonna cut myself or scrape too much of my ginger away. I just give it a quick rinse under the water. How hard is that? Ginger peeled and clean, ready to use. Now just do the rest. I'm doing this over my sink because I have a garbage disposal, and it's going to just get processed through the disposal. But if you don't, you just do this plate, paper bag, disposable, however, and then take it to the sink and rinse it. But because mine is all going to go down the drain, this is just me. Less to clean up. Okay. This is another piece. Okay, now my ginger is all peeled and clean, and my tea is brewed. So, I'm going to grab my tea, and while it's still hot, I'm going to sweeten my tea in a pitcher. I'm brewing 2 gallons of kombucha, so I need 2 cups of sugar. This is raw organic sugar. It's my preference. You can use plain white sugar. You can use terminated sugar. It really doesn't matter. Coconut sugar, I tried unsuccessfully SCOBY did not like it. So I wouldn't use any other sugar except cane sugar. If you do experiment with other types of sugar, do so when you have extra SCOBY and you can do it in a small batch to see how it comes out. So I'm going to just pour my hot tea in the pitcher. It's concentrated. And I'm going to give it a stir to dissolve the sugar. Sugar dissolves so much easier in a hot liquid. So that's why we sweeten with this stage. Now, because I have a very hot liquid, I'm going to add the rest of the water from my first gallon into my fermenting jar. And because I have 2 cups of finished kombucha in my jar, I need to take 2 cups of water from my second gallon and I'll use this to make tea or put it in my Keurig to make coffee. The remainder of my second gallon will go in my fermenting jar. Now that I have a gallon and a half of room temperature liquid, my SCOBY will not be harmed when I add the hot tea to the fermenting jar. It will float to the top. And now I will put the towel back on, secure it with the band, rubber band, and set my kombucha jar to the side for 7 days. Now on to fermenting the second time and flavoring. To do this, you're going to need brewing bottles, a funnel, a container with your finished kombucha, and the fruit that you're going to flavor the kombucha with. This batch, I'm using the red berries. I'm using blackberry, and I'm using the ACI puree. noni powder. And this is jamon seed. I saw it at the international market and I saw it was a red berry, so I thought, okay, antioxidants, I'll add that to my blend as well. My first time using it, so I'm probably not going to use a lot of it, but I'm going to just incorporate it to see how it tastes and what it does. It's going to be delicious though. Okay. So I have my ginger, I have my blackberries, my ACI. This is a puree I picked up in a package at Costco. I would imagine you can use the whole berries, or maybe you can get the juice if you can't find this. But it's not necessary. This is just my personal blend here. All of my kombucha, regardless of the flavor, will have 4 different components. Ginger. This is white turmeric. I wash it, scrub it real well with the vegetable brush, and I put it in the freezer. Because I have a Vitamix, I do not peel my turmeric. The peelings skin is actually good, and like I said, I scrub it real well, so it's going to have a nice, it's nice and clean. And this is the white turmeric. As you can see, the inside of this turmeric is white. It looks like the color of ginger. The yellow turmeric, however, would be orange on the inside. And so this is 3, I call them little fingers, but that's what I'll be adding to my kombucha. So turmeric goes in. This is about 2 thumbs of ginger, and I'm going to just cut it up because it's such a thick piece. Okay, so because the ginger is in such large pieces, I'm just cutting them to just make it blend a little easier. So I have in my blender turmeric, ginger, and my next ingredient is whole black peppercorns. You can use ground black pepper. The reason I use black pepper is because black pepper makes turmeric 2,000% more effective. And so I'm going to just pour some black peppercorns in the palm of my hand. I would imagine that's about, I would say a teaspoon, half a teaspoon really, of whole black peppercorns. And my 4th ingredient is hibiscus flowers. And I basically just put a palmful in the blender. And it'll get processed just a little bit more. Now, because I'm making a red blend, I remembered I have dried cranberries. So I'm going to just add the dried cranberries. I think I'll use about a cup. This is no hard fast rule on how much. These are Ocean Spray Craisins, but that's just the brand I have. There are all types of different brands of dried cranberries. I'm going to put the dried cranberries in. And I'm going to now put the puree in. Put my scissors up so I now have 2 antioxidants going in. It's all going to blend because it's all red. And next, I'm going to put my frozen blackberries. My rule for flavoring kombucha, I generally use 2 cups of fruit per gallon. So since I'm doing 2 gallons here, I have 1 cup of cranberries, and I'm going to put 3 cups of blackberries. So that'll give me 2 cups of fruit per gallon. Now I'll add the noni powder. I think I'm going to use a teaspoon. Noni. Well, 2 gallons. I'll use 2 teaspoons of the noni powder. And I've never used the jamon seeds, so I think I'll just do 2 teaspoons jamon seed. So I ought to have a super antioxidant. Now, I'm putting some finished kombucha, just enough to cover my fruit and get it going in the blender. This is liquid stevia. Because I know my frozen blackberries are not super sweet, I'm going to add a dropper of liquid stevia. I've never used this, the liquid, but I have used the powder stevia that measures spoon for spoon like sugar. But I was in Trader Joe's and I ran across the liquid stevia. Thought I'd give it a try. And by the way, while I'm in the freezer, I just want to show you the difference between the yellow turmeric and the white turmeric. This is the yellow turmeric. I don't know if I can break it, but as you can see, the inside of it is an orangey gold color. I don't use it in my blender because it stains everything. I have a special cup for my blender that I use when I'm using my yellow turmeric. There is no difference in as far as effectiveness. They equally do the same job. So now I'm going to just blend my fruit, put it in the blender, and I started on 1. I have a Vitamix, so I'm starting on 1. Once Once everything is broken up, moving real good, then I'll dial it up to the highest setting. And I'll let that blend for 2 minutes. Okay, so my fruit are well blended, and now I'm going to add it to my container of kombucha. And because I want to get all of my fruit, I poured some of my kombucha into a pitcher, which allows me to rinse my blender pitcher out and get all of my fruit puree. I bought it all. I want to use it all. And so now is where I adjust to taste. If I like what I got, it's ready to bottle. Delicious. Perfectly sweet enough. If you're not using stevia, instead of stevia to your fruit, you can add 3 or 6 tablespoons of sugar per gallon, the sugar of your choice. Doctors do not like the artificial sweeteners for me, so I don't recommend them for you. Now we're ready to bottle. Funnel, brewing bottle, and what I'm going to do to make it easy to bottle, I'm going to pour from my large container into my pitcher. So I'll take this to the sink. Normally, I'm only working with a gallon of kombucha, but because I did an extra gallon for a friend who is in need of kombucha, I'm working with larger containers. So now, to bottle, I pour flavored kombucha into the brewing bottle. I don't go too far up the neck because CO2 will build up in the brewing bottle and turn this flat flavored tea into a fizzy beverage soda-like. So next bottle. Uh-oh. If you go too far up, the easiest way to do that is not to take the funnel out, but to just pour some through the funnel. You'll find that way you don't spill or waste any of your kombucha. So I'm going to continue filling my bottles. My blackberry, acai, cranberry flavored kombucha. I wish you could taste. It is absolutely delicious. And I hope this has been helpful to you, and happy brewing.